Hello, hello, hello. Let's get this all rolling.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good to meet you, CC. Well, face to face,
Likewise.
kind of. Zoom face to face.
Likewise.
Open this out. Bear with me one moment, guys. Did it ask for a passcode when you got signed up or signed in to the with the link? No,
Yeah.
it did.
hmm I found the password from a different meeting on the calendar, so that's how I passed it.
Thank you. That's good. Why? For, whenever I think I fixed that link, it always does it to me again. Okay, we'll see. We'll get people in. Hmm. All right, we'll get some stragglers coming in because of the passcode mess things up, but it's all right. It's fine. We got the most bored people here. We're good. Okay. There's Aubrey. Okay. All right. Let's get this going. No sense of sitting in here doing nothing. Okay. Aubrey, make a co-host.
Sounds good.
All right. Well, the door knocking bonanza was awesome. Um, we had a smaller group, which is fine, but there's probably like only 10 people. Well, about 10 people were there, so kind of a good amount, I think. Perfect amount. But yeah, we got like it was 4 appointments total set. Couple leads, and so yeah, I think it was really good. Glad to see Nate was there. I didn't think he was coming, but glad he showed up. Was that you? Was that your doing, Aubrey?
Yeah, it was. My grandma was in the hospital, so I asked if he could go forth instead because we had a friend who wants to get in wholesale games, so it worked out.
Yeah, that's all. Okay. Well, sorry about your grandma. It's unfortunate.
Thank you. Yeah.
Okay. All right, guys, let's get into negotiating. Let's just get this going. Love it. Okay, so we talked about the basic negotiating before, but one thing, I mean, what we can do is go into negotiating with creative financing. What would you guys, do you want to go back over the basics again as far as mirroring how to present the offer and then, or should we just jump into some seller financing stuff?
Let's do negotiations first.
Okay, yeah.
This is my first, obviously, everyone else, but this is my first one. I just joined. So, yeah, love to hear what you say about negotiations and then get into seller financing.
This is the funnest part of real estate in my for me. It's the funnest part. I love the negotiating part. It's so cool. It's scary, but it's exciting at the same time. um, the main basics of any negotiating is understanding that numbers don't matter, and that's hard for a lot of people to understand or swallow. But numbers do not matter. Um, because it's not about the money that they're getting. It's about what the money can does do for them. I think I use this example with you, Boston. Like if I give you $2 million and locked you in a room and no internet, what does that $2 million do for you?
Ain't gonna do nothing, right?
A whole lot of nothing. It's just paper. That's all it is. It's just paper. But if I gave you $2 million and you can spend it whenever you want, then it's a whole different story, right? So the money itself doesn't do anything for us. It's what we're going to do, experience, have, relieve stress, whatever it is with that money. That's what we want. So understanding why they really want to sell, what's going on with their challenges, that is the key. So the basis of negotiating with a seller, we should be talking 20% of the time max, if not less, and they should be talking 80% of the time. And 15% of that 20 should be asking questions. So out of the entire, if you're talking to the person for an hour, only 6 minutes of it should be you explaining something, presenting your offer. The rest of the time you're talking should be questions. Should be questions, should be mirroring, should be, getting them to pull out information, allowing them to share information with you. Okay. A great book to everyone to listen to, read. Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss. So good. He also has Chris Voss does have a YouTube channel. He has more training, things like that. I'd highly recommend everyone check it out. He's an ex-FBI negotiator. Who's read that book? You've read that, haven't you? Yeah, you have too, CC. Good. Aubrey, you've read it too, right? Bryce,
Yes,
you've read
I
the
have.
book? Never Split the Difference, Chris Voss? Maybe. Okay. Um, it's a highly recommend everyone to read it. Check it out. It's a short listen too, if you're doing Audible. So we need to be asking questions and being in charge. So one thing that Chris Voss talks about in the book is the illusion of control. If we're having a conversation and you're talking the most, you typically feel like you're in control of the conversation. But if I'm asking the questions, if I'm asking you questions, you're just responding to me, who really is in control? Person asking questions or the person talking the most?
The person asking the questions.
Here we go. Booyah. Exactly, right? That's a big thing. And all you really need to do is there's a couple techniques that you do as you're going through this. Active listening, which is basically rephrasing or repeating what they said. Active listening is it's very, very helpful, especially if you feel like they're getting a little frustrated or upset or whatever the case may be. If they're getting a little emotional and things, just rephrasing what they say back to them. This helps them feel that they're understood. As a Walmart manager, I had to deal with a lot of pissed off people, and I was always the guy that my boss would send me over to go handle that challenge. And so, but the big part of it, even though I couldn't do anything, is just act. If I just made them feel heard, they felt fine, even though I didn't give them the result that they wanted sometimes. But the fact that they felt heard and understood, like that relieved most of the pressure. That moved a lot of their stress, their worries. So talking to someone or doing with negotiations, it's not about convincing them to take your price or to go to the lower point. It's helping them negotiate against themselves, which is why we want to get as much as emotional part of it as we possibly can. So there's two things we want to find out. These are the biggest things. Okay. What's their carrot and stick? So what are they running towards? What are they running away from? That's the biggest thing. So carrot and stick. And asking them about their situation and just active listening. And then there's something called mirroring. When we talked about mirroring last, who's been practicing mirroring? No one? Oh, you guys are killing me.
I honestly forgot about it.
Oh, okay. So you said you have, or you honestly forgot about it. So what did you say? I didn't hear it.
I said I honestly forgot about it.
Okay. So we want to, again, that's your guys' homework today, and post it in the community about what your experience was. Practice with your husband, practice with people you're talking to in the street, and I promise you, you're not going to notice. So mirroring, to sum it up, I don't want to get too repetitive, but I want to get some of the basics here. Mirroring is repeating or rephrasing the last three words that they say, or the most important, the words that you really want them to dive into. So, for example, one of the first questions I ask them when we sit down to have a conversation about buying their house, it's tell me about your situation. And as they're talking, just an example, like, oh, I lost my job. We had some, medical bills, but it's been pretty challenging. It's like, oh, you lost your job? And then you shut up, which is the hardest part, at least for some people like myself. I mean, it's a challenge to shut up sometimes, but repeat the last three words of the essay, or the last key words of the essay that you want them to expand upon, and then shutting up. So mirroring with combination of silence, and silence is huge. It's so massive. Using the awkward silence is like king. You want to use the awkward silence as much as humanly possible because they will give you more and more information than you realize. It's amazing. So repeating like, oh, you lost your job, and then you shut up and you just keep looking at them. And you might feel awkward at first. Eventually the awkwardness goes away. But you might feel awkward at first, but guess what? They're feeling the awkwardness too, and they're just going to fill it in. They're going to fill it in with more information about how he lost his job or what the situation is. And they might go on tangents of somewhere way over here about their cousin's brother or whatever. But then that's what we kind of bring them back to where you want, like the straight line of persuasion that the Wolf of Wall Street talks about. Like, so like you want to keep them focused on what you want to talk about. So that's what we have questions, and that's where like even using the mirroring technique, you're mirroring the direction you want them to go. So finding out about them, why would they even want to sell, and just really focusing on what those two, the pain point and carrots are, or the pain point and their carrot and the stick. And you'll know when you get there, especially when you're talking about their carrot, is when they light up. You get that emotional like. So one question I do like to ask a lot is like, so assuming once we buy your property, we're future pacing here. Once we buy your property and we're able to pay off all those debts you're referring to, and you're able to move on from the situation, how would that make you feel? Or what would you end up doing? And it'd feel amazing. I wouldn't have this, this, and this. When people are talking about something that's really kind of like emotional, like you get that kind of light in the eyes, or even from the phone, you can hear it. You guys know what I'm talking about. Like it's a very distinct. It's like, oh yeah, that'd be amazing. Or yeah, if I can get that, I'd be 90% of my problems are all fixed. Do you want them to get that emotional, like, aha. And even with the pain point, we're asking like the question. So, heaven forbid if we can't come up with a solution that makes sense for you and me, what happens if you can't sell your house before? What happens if you don't sell the house? And they'll say, well, we're gonna get foreclosure. I'm going to get. We'll probably have to move in with my in-laws. Like, oh, move in with your in-laws. And how would it make you feel if you did have to go through that and live with your in-laws and lose the house? Well, I would feel like a failure. It's not about just losing the house, not about losing money. It's about what that means to them emotionally, what it means to their relationships. And if you are slow if your cadence is slow, so I'm a very faster than normal than average talker, I think. So I have to work on it when I'm negotiating. I'm constantly like slowing down my cadence, being very intentional with your tone, because you can ask the exact same questions and you get two dramatically different answers and different responses just by the tone and the speed that you ask the questions in. If I ask, so tell me what if we don't buy your house, what happens? Versus with the concern tone, so tell me if for whatever reason we're not able to buy your house, what does that mean for you? You're gonna get dramatically different responses just by the speed and your tone of how you're asking. Because yes, if someone asks those two questions almost word for word, but the tone, the concern is dramatically different. So those are key things as far as like your cadence and mirroring is is phenomenal. Another one is a key line. I got this from Brian Sump, which is just tell me more about that. And by the way, they'll never notice you mirroring them. They're not going to call it out. Like unless you're terrible at it, which might be the case. But even then, it's they're not going to notice. If you're worried about them noticing that that's just in your head, because if they maybe they read the book, they understand it, then they know what you're doing. But mm-mm. I've done it to people that have gone through lots of training and just did the mirroring technique and not one word about what I'm doing or how weird whatever it was. That doesn't happen. So yeah, it just be consistent with them, practice it, right? Um, if you guys can be curious when you're having negotiations, like more curious than anything else, we have to be disattached from the results. You're gonna get your deal. It's gonna be this one or another one. That's fine. But being disattached from the results, like I'm gonna get a deal, might be this one, might not. That's gonna remove the commission breath, and then you can just have a genuine conversation with these people. So using mirroring technique, after active listening, rephrasing, repeating what they say, asking questions about, we're trying to find out the pain points here, pain points, what they're running towards. And you want that emotional, that's right. I want that emotional, like, yes, that feel amazing. That'd be great. Or like, oh yeah, I feel terrible if this happened. So what I like to do is like first kind of find out what happens when if they don't sell the property, because their situation could be foreclosure, divorce, whatever. You're going for divorce, for example, like, well, yeah, but I mean, then the wife, if I don't sell this property by this, because the court gave us a date about this date, we have to get it done. If that doesn't happen, then we have to go back to court and blah blah blah. And so they're going to go over why it's so painful for them to not sell the property. What happens when they don't? Because a lot of times when people are in situations like this of life changing life challenges, sometimes they don't understand where they're really at. I've had people days before auction, and it still blows me away. And this lady, she said like, yeah, we're gonna take our chances with the auction. I'm like, what chances, lady? Chances you're on the street. That's the only chance you have. Like that, there's no other option. Like, what are you talking about? I didn't say it like that by any means, but you get my point. Like it's like this blew me away, but I didn't do a good enough job showing her where she really was at and where she wants to be and where they're currently at. And that's a big thing. Helping them understand and see where they're really at, whether they're maybe it's a for sale by owner, and they are very typically them in reality for sale by owners, they're never connected, rarely. So helping them see where they're actually at in their house isn't made of gold. Like that's what we were doing, right? So people going through foreclosure, divorce, they may be some sort of like something's going to happen to fix this magically. And I've seen people like really like get down to the wire, and we've had to buy properties. It was like 3 days before auction, or like 2 days, or like the auction was Monday, we bought the house on Friday. Things like that, where it's like running with our um, trying to hustle to get that deal done, right? So it's about helping them understand and seeing what this actually looks like once they do go through that foreclosure, because these people are in probably the worst time of their lives, and thinking about what happens when they lose the house is a painful thought or emotion. So a lot of people, especially if they're in the situation, not every, I mean, because some people have bad luck, and I mean, I'm kind of averaging here, right? But it's pretty common for people going through that to kind of have the kick it down the road kind of mindset, at least that I've noticed. And so helping them understand and feel what it's going to be if they don't sell, what's really going to happen to them when this all comes down. And you're just going to guide them through that, which is like, so what happens if you don't sell, if I don't buy it or anyone else buys a property, what happens? Well, lose the house. You lose your house? Well, yeah, that's what the banks do, and they take my equity, and I have to move with my in-law. Like, oh, your in-laws. Yeah, they're a real pain in my butt, or whatever they're gonna say, right? And you'll be shocked on how much people just start giving you information just by that. Okay, so just be really really curious, waiting for that emotional like that the tonality, then okay, great. Now I know what their pain point is. We find out, okay, what happens when you sell your property? Assuming we come with the best price that makes sense for you and me. I'm saying like when I buy your property, not if, but when I buy your property, what does that mean to you, or what are you going to do next? And so asking that question, and then and how it can feel once, because if I already know their pain point, like knowing that all of that problem XYZ thing, you don't live with your in-laws anymore because you can buy that apartment you're talking about or rent that apartment. What does this mean to you? Like how'd that feel if you're able to have that? And sometimes people like worry, like, well, asking about their feelings that feels weird. It If you do it in the right tonality, and you're slow down in your cadence, like I've been saying, that it comes across a lot sincere. And you want to be sincere. You want to find out what they're really feeling, what they're really going through. That's where you're gonna find the magic. Okay. So understanding, like, what is it? Oh, I would feel amazing. I wouldn't have this problem anymore. And that's when they kind of light up, right? Then I know I got it. Okay, that's what I want to hit on. Those things that they're saying right there. Like I'm taking mental notes or physical notes about what they're saying and how they're saying it. Um, so once we get those pain points, and then so their carrot and their stick. So the stick's the pain points. The carrot is like what's their goal? What are they trying to accomplish? What would be the best scenario for them? Once we get that, because that is the most. So you shouldn't be giving offers to them until you really know those things. When it comes to like investors, or like when I'm talking to agents, it's more. I do go more into like numbers more than anything else. But in reality, it's all about like what's their emotional needs. What does this really mean to them? Because if they think they have $100,000 in equity, and like, yeah, I need all this money. Like, oh yeah, great. I totally can see that. If you don't mind me asking, once we do buy your property and you end up with that money, um, what are you gonna do with all that? Well, I'm gonna pay off this debt, or I'm gonna be able to put a down payment in the next house, or I'm gonna be able to rent the apartments. Like, okay, cool. And that's kind of understanding what they're doing with the money too. It helps you understand the options for creative financing, which we'll get into in a second here. But those are the things. So once we find out the carrot and stick, then the offer itself is sandwiched between the carrot and the stick. So this is important. You remember how you told me about, and this is whatever they're saying, whatever their pain points are. Okay. Here, someone give me some pain points the seller might have. Someone shout it out. Like, give me two pain points and how it made them feel. Anybody?
The overwhelming of payments that they've missed. Like,
Okay. Like being buried, right? Or they're being overwhelmed with payments. Okay. Yep. I like that. One more pain point.
Probably just not knowing where they're gonna go next if they have to sell.
Yeah.
Especially if they don't have family around.
Okay. Yeah. So maybe they're not gonna have the money if they foreclose on it, they don't get any extra money. I mean, sometimes it's over, but it takes like months to get that if there is any extra money. But a lot of times they don't even know they can even do that. So yeah, absolutely. That's as good. What are some, maybe they sell the house to us? What are some carrots that they're going to be excited about?
Won't feel like a failure.
Yeah. So not a failure, or maybe they felt like they feel like a good provider at very least, right? They took a bad situation, put it in good. So not a failure. What else?
Their credit is saved so they can actually rent somewhere.
Hmm. I like that. And you want to use as close to what their language is as possible. So the words that they're using to phrase certain things. So if they're saying I would feel amazing if I was able to do this, this, and this. And I use the word. Remember, I said you would feel awesome if you had that. It's not going to hit as hard if you're not using their words, because they told you amazing, and you use the word awesome. I mean, they're similar words, basically mean the exact same thing. So awesome, amazing, whatever. But your awesome might mean the same thing as amazing, but it may not mean the same thing to them. So you want to use it as close as you can the words that they use, the slang, whatever it is. If they're saying that I see myself that be in this trouble, you want to use sight words, look, vision, all that stuff. That's a little bit more deeper into it, but you want to use their language as much as possible. Okay, great. So, hey, Mr. Seller, I mean, appreciate you sharing me that information. And you remember how you told me that heaven forbid if we're not able to come up to understand or agreements here, that you would just, if we didn't buy your house, you would feel pretty overwhelmed because of the payments, and because you told me you were behind the mortgage, also the car payments, and just not knowing where to go next. Sounded like it was kind of a big stress for you. And in order for those things not to happen, so you don't feel that stress, not knowing where to go next, because you didn't have any money to go, or there's no family around, and to get rid of that overwhelmed feeling that you told me about, of just being behind on all your bills. Really good news. So I have we can do a cash offer. We close within way before that auction date of $475,854.12. So that you can sell your house and save the credit, like you were mentioning, so that you can be able to buy a house in the next couple of years after those late payments kind of fall off, and you would have funds so you can know where to go, and not having to what was the other thing? Oh yeah, the credit, and so your credit saved and you're able to move on to the next step. Would you prefer to close on the following Wednesday, or would Thursday make more sense for you? So I went through that kind of quickly, but do you guys see how I did that? So it's like the pain point. Remember how you said this, and this. Here's my cash offer. The more distinct number, the better. So if instead of giving you 475,000, I'm saying $475,854.12. That's a lot harder number to negotiate against. It's like a real number. It's not just thrown out there like, okay, let's meet in the middle. Let's split the difference. No, this is a real number. This is what my calculations have to do all this, the construction, everything else. That's very, very important, right? Well, it's very, very helpful. So sometimes I'm not always remember to give the exact numbers of 12 cents or whatever, but it becomes more real. And so we sandwich that offer, that cash offer, between those two things. And that's the cool part, right? So we have that offer there. And I've had people where it was many, many times where like, I'm never going to go this low. Never, never, ever. Because I need this money because I need it. Okay, yeah, I get it. And if you don't want to sell it at anything lower than that, I wouldn't want you to do it. Yeah, you should never do any of that stuff. If you don't want to do it, I totally agree. And then by the time we're done with the conversation, it's like, oh yeah, that does fix my problems. Again, remember, money doesn't really matter. It's what it can do for us. If you can show them that your offer can do everything that they really want, that they need emotionally, they're gonna be like, yeah, this makes perfect sense. Like, I would like a little more, but I get it where you're coming from. I don't have to worry about dealing with a realtor, or heaven forbid, or all the other stuff that they may have concerns with, right? So you're given the opportunity to get this deal, this offer, and it's fixing every emotional challenge that they're currently facing with the home, and that's massive. Okay, so understanding where they're at. That's why the most important part of the conversation is in the discovery, like the first part. And usually when I give an offer, if we're chatting for an hour or 45 minutes or 30 minutes, whatever it may be, like the vast majority, the first part of it's all be asking questions, understanding where they're coming from. Why do they want to sell? And I want to sell because I want to get the 200,000. It's not the answer you want. That's surface level. That's like so far up the surface level, it's in the air. Yeah, you want $200,000. I get it. Who doesn't want $200,000? But why do you want it? What are you gonna do with that money? what's going to happen when you do, if you did get that money, what would you do with it? What happens if you don't get that money? What happens then? What situation are you going to be in? Then we come out when you put it all together and show them this is what it is. This is how and and that's with the cash offer, not even talking about creative financing or anything like that. Another thing too is the anchoring part. So you can anchor as you move forward. So who can remind me what anchoring is? When I say anchoring on price, what does that mean?
You give them like a range.
Okay. So range, what else? Anybody else have any thoughts? Because
It's
that range
something
does
you
work.
can
Yeah.
refer to. So like, for example, at Walmart, around Christmas time, they'll say price was $500, now $250. So they make you feel like you're getting a great deal.
Right. And it's crazy how well that works because it's so true. Because maybe if you just put a solid price point at 250, you'll be like, that's a terrible deal. I don't want to spend $250 for that. But when you put it in a context, like, oh, it used to be 500. Oh, that's a heck of a deal. Now it's the exact same price point. Nothing's changed, but they feel differently about it. And so that's why you do want to use a lot of anchoring when you're doing this, because typically they're asking is going to be more than what we're able to buy. Like 99% of the time. They're going to want more than we could potentially offer. And that's okay. Like why wouldn't they want more, right? But so their anchor, if my offer is 475,000 and they're asking 550, they're comparing my 475 to their 550, and my 475 doesn't look very attractive compared to the 550. But if we, as we're going through the conversation and discussing about their situation, one thing I do like to say is like, so have you had any offers in recently, or anyone come by talking about selling the property? And sometimes they'll say they have, and I'll ask them almost every time, like, oh, what were those offers? And by the way, if you act like it's a big deal, then they're going to think it's a big deal. If you throw out that information, like just ask them questions, especially when you're asking about their mortgage, all that stuff. Like if you act like it's not, like it's just standard, it's totally fine. I remember back in January with Aubrey's husband Nate, he was and he did a great job. So he had a negotiation over the phone, and I was like, yeah. So what is his mortgage? We're looking at some creative financing options. I was like, I don't know that, and I was like, okay, cool. So let's just ask him. You'll be kind of surprised how easy they'll give it to him. And so he was a little bit nervous asking it because he didn't want to feel like he's prying or anything. But he asked it, and then the guy just gave him the information that's right there. Just like, oh yeah, it's about 4%. Here's the payments. Sometimes people say no, they don't want to give that information. That's okay. But when I'm talking to him, sorry, scroll moment. But we're talking to them as far as anchoring goes. If they have an offer and they're willing to share it, awesome, because it's probably going to be lower too. And they may say that they have offer and it's way higher than what your offers are or what's going to be. 9 times out of 10, it's a lot of BS. It's not necessarily true. So if someone ever does that, I usually say, oh, then you should definitely go with them. I can't go that high. Yeah, that definitely. Why? I mean, if you don't mind me asking, why didn't you go with that offer of the 540,000? Well, for dumb reasons, right? Because most times BS, but they're anchoring you. So what I'll say is like I don't want to give them a lowball offer just to anchor them, but what I will say is like I know a lot of other investors that would have offered you. I'm kind of surprised you didn't get a lot of offers yet because I know a lot of investors that would have offered for this property in this area, even the high 200s, like 200 and 290,000. So now that's kind of in their head, the 290, what other people might be offering. So you're not saying you're offering that, and you can even you want to do a body language tip, which is like, I know other people out there, other investors out there, and I'm doing this, like I'm facing out if there's a window or door or whatever. I just kind of out there, not here because we're different, but out there. I know a lot of investors out there that would offer to you like in the high 200s, like 290 or something like that. But that's good. I mean, I'm glad to hear you didn't get any lowball offers like that. That makes me feel better. So now they're anchored into that 290. They're comparing your offer to that 290 subconsciously. They're not thinking about this. That's just what it feels like. It's all emotional. It's all subconscious stuff. 90% of it is. And so you don't want to get them in number based. You want to get them into solution based thinking. So what is it like? That's why you want the carrot and stick. You want to find out what their pain point is, what they're running away from, what they're running away towards, and then you can build your offer to fit their needs exactly. Any questions, thoughts on that? On what we've talked about before, or over here, or just negotiations in general? Does that make sense? What I'm saying?
That makes sense. I just want to confirm that it is a lot easier. I mean, it is easier than you think it will be to ask people about their mortgage and what they're paying. I used to be scared, but when you're just asking them a bunch of questions and they have a higher status for you or see you like a professional, it's just like no big deal. Like, oh, how many square feet? How many bedrooms? How much do you owe? And they just answer it like nothing.
Yeah, I 100% right. Yeah. I mean, and this is true with any objection that they come up with. It's if you act like it's a big deal, it's not a big deal. I mean, so there's a lot more objections when we're talking about creative financing stuff. But when it's like any objection, you can overcome those with just acknowledging their concern, addressing it, and ask the next question to move on with the conversation. So the same as like, oh, well, what if you stop making payments on my mortgage if we're doing like subject to, for example? Like, oh yeah, totally. I'm glad you asked. I'm glad you're thinking about stuff like this because a lot of people ask me similar questions about this. So now they're validated. They feel smart because they're asking good questions, and it's good that they're asking that in all sincerity. So yeah, I get that question quite a bit actually. So I'm glad you asked that. So, yeah. So if remember how we talked about I'm we're going to have to do a rehab on this property, and we're giving you that down payment that we mentioned to pay out the equity. We're just leaving your mortgage in place. Um, we're not necessarily in the business to put down $40,000 down payment and put another $60,000 in rehab to not make a $1,200 payment. So are you thinking of closing, like, would the closing date be better for like the 20th of this month, or thinking for, past the 25th? So it's their concern. I addressed it. I validated, addressed it, and then asked whatever the next step was, depending where we're at. Like, how'd you get this phone number? I get my lead sources from all sorts of places. I'd be more than happy to check for you. Is this property for sale? Whatever the next step is, you ask that. And that was from Chris Alvin, Chris Alvin in Deal a Decade. So it's important to be curious. Like, you can have all of these tips, all of these things, but if you could just be a genuinely curious person when you're talking to them and trying to find out more about what they're feeling and how this can affect them, and don't care if you close this deal or not, easier said than done. You're going to be miles ahead of anyone else that's trying to talk to this person. I guarantee you. Because and you don't need to worry about building rapport. I think building rapport is the cliche-ish way. We're talking about sports teams, you're talking about the weather. I mean, maybe a line or two of that, sure, it's fine, but everyone knows now, like 20 years ago, that was really, really effective because they thought it meant something. Now we all know when a salesperson's asking about my favorite sports team or about the weather or whatever dumb thing that they're saying, there's to build rapport. We know that they're building rapport. It's not as effective because you feel it's fake. Because if Boston's asking about my sports team, wants to have a chat about it, or whatever, like, I know what he's doing. Everyone knows what you're doing. But if he's asking genuine, sincere questions about me and my situation, whenever we're talking about ourselves, even if it's like a down, a negative thing, but we're able to get out and we feel heard, and we're able to express the feelings. Like, if I'm talking about myself and I'm expressing, even if I'm going through a hard time, whatever, and I'm talking to Boston and he's just active listening, he's mirroring, he's repeating the last three words that I'm talking about, I'm gonna feel in rapport with him naturally because of that. Because I may not remember everything Austin said, but I will remember how he made me feel. And if I feel good, I'm going to associate that good feeling with him for having the conversation. So there's no real, I don't necessarily believe in really that building rapport garbage. I think if you're just asking genuine questions to get to it, find out the situations when then they're literally opening up to you about their worst time of their lives potentially. Because a lot of people are in that situation. Not every single one of them. Sometimes it's bad luck and they're ready to get back up there, which is fine. But yeah, it's a rough time for them. Divorce, foreclosure, that stuff sucks. They bought a property, they thought we were gonna make money on. It looks like they might actually lose money now. Stressful. And so just having them open up and talk that builds that instant rapport. So now we're anchoring, we're mirroring, we're active listening, and this all kind of comes together. Okay, and you guys are gonna have your own voices and how you structure it, how you ask these type of things. So when we're talking about creative financing, so now that we understand their pain point, what they're running away from, what they're running towards, and I give them the cash offer of the 475 and 475,500 or 800, whatever the exact number is, right? So 475. We'll just keep that for shorthand. And they really needed, we'll just say, I don't know, we'll just say, if we'll just say it before, like 450, right? So we're not like a huge difference. So if they're really looking at 450 is what they're really trying to get, or no, better yet, let's even go higher. Let's say they wanted to have like 600. I don't know. That was their thoughts because that's for sell down or whatever. So that's like that's a big difference. It's a $125,000 haircut. If they just can't take the cash offer or this doesn't make sense, the cool thing about this is like now we can offer them creative financing option. So seller financing subject to lease options, depending whatever the situation kind of calls for. And then we are already anchoring them in a lower price point because we talked about those other investors offering the high 200s, and you're already better than that because you're in the 400s, or the mid 300s or whatever number you want to say. But now they're even anchored in your 475. So when you give them a better offer with creative financing, and the reason why we can offer more with creative financing on if we're selling this deal to a flipper is because typically it's going to cost the flipper less money if they do seller financing versus like go getting a hard money loan, for example. They're paying 12% interest plus 2 points to start it up. So if they hold it for 6 months, that they're paying over 8% of whatever that money they're lending on. And you get seller financing at 3%, that's a 5%, or yeah, that's it. Well, annualized, it's a lot bigger than 5% savings, but it's a massive savings for the cost of the deal. So the money you're saving on that, you can offer a little more. So like when I'm saying seller financing, I don't say seller and financing together unless they do. Because why wouldn't I want to say seller financing to the seller? Those two words together. Why wouldn't I want to do that? It's counterintuitive, I know. Like if I want seller
Sorry,
financing, how am I going to do it? Yeah, sorry, go ahead, Aubrey.
did you ask why wouldn't we say those two words together to them?
Yep.
There's just a lot of stigma with it, especially with agents. People are just afraid of things that they don't understand.
Yeah.
Or they've heard people lost with that, and so yeah, it's just avoid stigma.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. Now, so instead of saying seller financing, I just explain what it is. Because here's another thing as well, especially when you're dealing with the average Joe, they may have complete understanding of what that even means. Holding paper, holding the note, making the seller financing. If you're saying those things to them, it can mean something completely different to them. You don't know. So what I typically do is just explain what it is. It's like, yeah, I get that 475 it's not going to make sense for you, but so we still can get it where we can buy the property, make sense for us. I think we can get really close to your 600,000 you're asking for, Are you open to having a conversation on how we can get you pretty close to that 600,000 or maybe even more? Well, yeah, of course. Yeah, I want that. I don't want that 475. I want the 600. Okay, cool. Awesome. Then hold on. Who does not have an amortization calculator app on their phone? Yeah, Boston. Okay. Who else does not have one? Raise your hand, shout it out. No judgment here. I'm gonna judge you. Just kidding. I'm gonna judge you. I'm just kidding.
I used to teach velocity banking at our intro, so there's
Nice.
no way I don't not have an amortization calculator.
Love it. There you go. All right. You can just Google amortization calculator, balloon payment calculator. I like balloon payments because I kind of get it, it's just one-stop shop and figure it out. But you want to download it, you have it there. And literally when I'm like talking to the seller, like a lot of times I'll just play with the numbers right then and there. Now, when you first start out, you probably want to, have a better understanding before you're in the thick of it. But we can play with it. So let's just say, so this guy wants 600,000 and our max offer is 475. So let's just say if we're saving money and this is gonna be a flip, so we're saving money on their because we're not paying $50 million. Yeah, don't think that. Too many zeros. Um, so if we buy the property at 500 at 4% interest, and it's just for 1 year, we're over that the course of the year, they're getting an additional almost $20,000 in interest alone. But usually when I'm talking about something like this, if they're trying to get closer to 600, I'll usually put a balloon for 5 years or so, right? So now we're looking at an additional $195,000 over the course of 5 years. So they're getting 595,000 when we're buying it at 500. Does that make sense? What I'm saying? Like, I think there's a way I can get pretty close to that 600,000, and we have financing for the next 5 years on this property at 4%, which is like free money, practically. And they're getting close to the 600,000. So yeah, so here's what would happen. I could actually buy the property even higher than what I was offering for the 475 because I'm saving money on interest and whatnot. And because you are going to charge me interest regardless, over the course of the next 5 years, I would actually end up paying you additional 95,000. So when you add everything up, it's going to be 595,000. Oh, okay. So they're saying now we're buying the property for 500. But they're effectively getting, assuming it goes to the 5 years, they're getting 600,000. That's an extra $100,000, and our offer didn't really change. Now we have seller financing, so they're getting more money. We're getting a better deal because we don't have to raise 500,000. We don't have to go to hard money lender. We don't have to pay the higher interest. We don't have to go to private money lending. They already got it. We just got to get the rehab costs, and that's it. I'm done. At a really good interest rate. So this is just one strategy or one method of talking, like it's the price point that they're worried about, right? Another oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I just got a couple questions. So for like this, obviously it makes sense.
Mhm.
When you're selling, let's say you get this under contract with the seller financing, right?
Yeah.
Would we sell the contract for 595,000 now, or
Oh, great
like
question.
somebody else, or like
So it's
how do we like? I'm just kind of trying to figure out like what we do with that because that makes sense. I just
Good
don't
question.
know if there's that extra 95,000, like that's gonna cut into like
Oh yeah,
costs
of
and
course. Yeah,
stuff.
I mean the deal wouldn't make sense at 595, right? But they're not buying it at 595. They're buying it at 500. It's the same like if you buy a house, and you're looking at the purchase price, right? If I'm buying a house for myself as a rental or personal residence, I'm getting a loan, and at the end of the loan, they always give you those amortization paper where it shows how much you're actually paying. Over a 30-year loan, if I had a $500,000 loan, I'm paying $1 million to the bank over the next more than that easily,
Mhm.
even at 4%. Let's just see. Let's show you guys, right? So if I get a 30-year loan, 500,000, even at 4% interest, which is really good, I'm still paying an additional $359,000 in interest. So it's $860,000 I'm paying for a $500 house. Like I'm buying a house for me and I'm buying a house for the bank.
Mm.
So and the bank doesn't. So when you buy a house like traditional financing, you don't go off of you don't say, yeah, I'm going to buy this house for 859. I'm actually, but I'm buying a house for 500. Right. So it's just part of and I say, and when I say like, yeah, you're by the end of the 5 years, you're going to get an extra 95,000. But I'm very clear that we're buying this property at 500, and
Yeah.
the extra 95,000 is just an interest over that time, assuming that the loan goes along.
Okay.
So if it's like, oh, I can't, well, I don't want to wait 5 years or whatever. Okay, great. Well, I mean, we're going to flip it anyway. So, I mean, if we do it for a year, that still makes sense. You're not going to make as much because of it's the time and interest is where you're really getting it, but you're still going to get an extra $20,000 instead of, just the 475. So they're walking 520 after the year. When you add everything up, it's a lot better than 475.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they wanted 600, but it feels so much better. It's like, okay, that makes sense. And when you're wholesaling, people are willing to pay a higher price for a deal if it's creative financing. It has some sort of with it subject like the mortgage stays in place. And this is like a traditional. We're just doing. They don't have any loan in place. Like that's what a traditional actual seller financing is. But does that make sense, Boston? So like the as I'm wholesaling it, so if I have it in contract for 500,000, like there's no down payment or whatever, um, and is for 5 years. I put it out there as a 5-year balloon, 4% interest. It's and we're selling this at $520,000.
Yeah.
So the down payment, and here's something too, when we're talking about seller financing, creative financing, down payment really, 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 really matters. It's huge. Okay. You can have really cool deal and I mean seller financing at 2% interest but it's like the down payment like 200,000.
Yeah.
There's a certain tipping point, especially if you're looking at flips, because most of your buyers are gonna be flippers. When you're looking at there's like a tipping point of when the down payment's too much. Because if it's too much, let me back up. So hard money lenders, 99% of them do not want to be in second position. They want to be first position. That's why they're hard money lenders, right? They want to be
Yeah.
first position. They need gap funding, so they don't want to be in second position for anything. A lot of them won't even look at a deal if their only option is second position because they're self financing. And you can negotiate second positions. I've done that before, but it's a rarity. So if the down payment is so big, like it's almost better to do hard money. I've seen deals where people were better situations, or buying the deal just in cash, or using hard money than actually doing the seller financing stuff. So when I'm talking if we're doing down payment, like I try to keep the down payment under 30,000 and your wholesale fee is also going to be part of that down payment because the wholesale fee get paid up front. So if we're trying to make 20, so if you, me, and Boston, we're in this deal and we're wholesaling this deal, we want to make 20,000. Cool. So we're going to market this at 520,000 and maybe the seller needed 20,000 down and then another 20,000 for a wholesale fee. So we're marketing it as if it's a $40,000 down payment and our fee is part of that down payment.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay. Cool. What other questions do we have about like what we've talked about before? With another thing too with subject 2, this is seller financing. And you guys have questions, just shout them out. One way to talk about like if they're subject to, so let's just say that they don't have a ton of equity, maybe they're about to lose their house. Sometimes I'll draw it out with them. I'm like, you know what? I know you're gonna, and when you're talking to people, once you find out the mortgage, so even if you're not going to do seller financing or not, but understanding like how much money they're going to walk away with is really helpful, especially when you talk to them about that too. So a lot of times, like if I know they owe 450, sometimes if I'm going to buy it at 500, I'll I'll talk about the $50,000 that they're gonna get. Like, yeah, so in your pocket, $50,000. Like, okay, that's more real because they like I'm gonna take care of the closing costs, and so your actual take home price for this, because I'm taking care of the closing costs, is gonna be that $50,000. Like, oh, okay, so that you can pay off that loan, have enough for moving expenses, da 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 da, whatever it is. So it's like, yeah. So when we close on in the next 10 days or so, you're gonna walk away with that $10,000, right? And typically on regular transaction, we pay you the $50,000 and then we pay off the bank. But would you be okay if when we close the deal, you got paid that $50,000 and we just paid that bank and the bank gets their money a little later? Would you be okay with that? The bank man had to wait a little bit. Well, yeah. I mean, that's fine with me. Like because it's always what's in it for them, right? Yeah, I'm getting my $50,000. Like for subject to, nothing really changes for them in their scenario other than the mortgage stays in place. So just like, yeah, the bank's just gonna get their money. Like who loves banks? The bank's about to take their home. F the bank. Like screw those guys. So when you were and I and this is not my line. Someone else said it. I think maybe on here, but I really liked it how they put it. But it's I love that line. Like, is it okay if we give the bank money, or is it okay if the bank gets paid later and you get paid now? Well, yeah, sure. Great. So what it is, we're just going to leave the mortgage in place, repay your equity, and then after a year when we're done with this flip, we'll pay it off, and then it's not out of your name. You don't have to worry about it anymore. So now it's like, okay, yeah, this bank's just getting paid later. That's fine. So subject to the existing financing. That's what sub 2 is shorthand for, by the way. And so even when I'm talking about subject to, like leaving the mortgage in place, I don't normally say subject to normally. I'll say subject if I'll throw it out there as like subject to the existing financing. They want like, so what? How are we doing this? Yeah, we're just buying this property subject to the existing financing. Because what's the first thing they're gonna do when they get out there? They're gonna go Google subject is subject to safe or whatever, and then they're gonna get 12 articles about this person being that, and here's the thing: seller financing subject to, if done incorrectly, is really dangerous for the seller. So even though I harp on brokers and agents because they don't understand it, right? But if it's done incorrectly, it can be damaging for the seller. Okay, so you got to give them some grain of salt with that, I suppose. And there's so much more in creative financing stuff, which we didn't have time to get through. We can get through some of that stuff too. Another call, maybe tomorrow. But what questions do we have on, because we're at time, but what questions do you guys have about presenting the offer, negotiating, and just forget. Sometimes we'll put in our own. We will project our own feelings, like, oh, if they're asking 600, they're never taking my $500 offer. I would never take a 500 offer if I wanted 600. Yeah, you wouldn't. They might. So don't project, because that's what we're doing. We see the world through our lens. So anything happens to Boston, I'm going to interpret that as how it would affect me if something like that happened. That's what I'm going to assume how Boston feels, but that may not be the case. Most of the time, that's not the case. So when we're talking about like price points, like don't get freaked out or nervous when your offer is so much lower than what they're asking is, because it may not be that maybe they know it's super high, or but you presented it so well where it fixes their pain point and gets them the carrot, like, oh, that's great, yeah, I love that, let's close on the 5th. Okay, great, let's do the paperwork. And you want to have the paperwork signed this like right then if you can. Thoughts, questions before we're at the time now, but thoughts, questions, concerns.
I have a question, but it's not related to seller financing.
Go ahead and yeah.
So I'm doing a lot of cold calling. What is your approach for your intro? So I know we talked about a lot of the questions and negotiating. What are you seeing that works best for you as far as when you first pick up the phone, or they pick up the phone?
This is a cold call, or is this like an appointment set? We're gonna have
Cold call. Cold call.
So I would definitely check out the cold calling classes we have in the back office to get more information because you're not going to be able to, in a minute or two.
Yeah.
But
High level, macro.
yeah. In a nutshell, I like it to keep it as and my scripts in that same class too, but the as simple as humanly possible, and is I do the front door approach where it's like kind of like, yeah, I'm looking by your house. Do you want to sell? And I try to keep it as simple as possible and having a genuine conversation. That's the biggest thing. I don't like to give a ton of scripts because people get too locked into it. It should just be more of like bullet point things you can cover. But like my opening line, and there's so much deeper stuff into this, like using Sam Real Man, which we don't have time to get into. But effectively, it's like, hey, my wife and I are looking to buy a property in your neighborhood. Have you ever thought about selling?
Yeah, that's what I do right now.
Yeah, perfect.
But some people, like on your first attempt, they either say like get right to it, or like if they don't pick up, leave a generic like, hey, my name's Cecilia, call me back when you get a chance, and then maybe that second follow-up be more direct. But I always like to just hear how different people.
Yeah, I
But
mean,
like, am I saying, hey, is this Jared? And then they're like, yeah. Oh, great, I'm looking to buy your house. Or are you going like, hey, Jared, my name's Cecilia. How you doing today? Or like, hi,
so
Jared, my name's Cecilia.
the key is
Calling about your.
pattern interrupts. And sorry for interrupting you,
No,
but
no,
the
you're good. You're good.
pattern interrupts. Someone's in a tough situation, divorce, foreclosure, whatever the thing that we're calling them on, right? The reason why there's a reason why we're calling them. They're in a tough situation.
Mm-hmm.
You are not the first person to give them a call. Probably not the first person to call them today about that. So with the one thing you want to make sure you don't want them to put you in a box. Oh, you're one of those scummy investors. I know everything about you already, CC. You don't need to tell me anything else. I know you're trying to steal my equity. You're trying to do this. You're I'm just gonna get rid of you as fast as I possibly can.
Mm-hmm.
Because if we sound, and this is where you don't want to sound polished at all. The more crude, the more ums and everything else, the better it will be. Same door knocking. Especially with the first approach, the more unprofessional you are. Well, the more unprofessional. I'm not saying cussing or anything, but like, or less smooth you are, the better it's going to be. So if I call and CC answers and like, hey, is this CC? Is this Cecilia? Yes. Okay. I'm glad I got a hold of you. Okay. Hey, I don't know if you can um, help me, but I was calling to this address 123 Bay Street. Yeah, is that your? Okay, that's your house. Perfect. Um, the reason I'm calling, I know it's out of the blue, but my wife and I were actually looking to buy a property in that neighborhood. I'm just curious. Have you ever thought about selling? So from that point, like as far as they're making their own story.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times, like, oh, this is probably just because I say me and my wife, and because obviously you and your husband, or for Boston, you're not married, but like my family and I, totally fine. My dad and I actually kind of like that even better. Whatever situation, maybe you don't have, family of one is still family, but it sounds like you're a regular person, so you're not instantly one of those people, right? So Stella's a partner in my business, and so yeah, when I say my wife and I buy property, I'm 100% truthful. But they're thinking, okay, maybe it's the neighbors. Like I'm at least have a conversation with this guy because he doesn't know what he's doing. Like he obviously has some troubles, right? Because that's what they're thinking. That's what I want them to think. I want them to not know exactly what I'm about, and then we have a regular conversation. So whatever they say, yes, no. Oh, really? Why would you want to sell that beautiful house? Or oh, really? Why wouldn't you? Or why aren't you looking to sell? And then we do the mirroring technique we just talked about, rephrasing, active listening. Like this is a general conversation, and then the goal is to set the appointment and then do the analysis, and then go to the appointment or you do your analysis between the appointment and the initial first call, right? But yeah, that's in a quick high level, like, or
Okay.
micro level,
Yeah.
whatever the right terms are.
I'll go through your cold calling course and see what you say about it. Because yeah, that's my main thing. I'm also doing direct mail.
That's great.
But yeah, I'm pulling the data right from the courthouse.
How many mailers are you going to send out, or have you started to send out?
Yeah, I've started. I started marketing in the middle of April. I'm doing 3 counties. I have about 185 records per month, and I'm only mailing non-owner occupied. But then calling everybody.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't called all those 185s per month. I have a little bit of resistance for getting on the phones, but the past couple of weeks I've been more consistent, getting more comfortable and
Good.
getting consistent in those reps. But
Mhm.
mailers, I actually have my let's see how many I've sent and how many call-ins I've gotten. Let's see.
So you're sitting on average 360 a month, right? Is what you said? Does that sound
No,
right?
185.
Oh, 185. Okay.
And this is just probates. I'm just doing probates right now because
Okay.
I'm
Perfect.
just a one-man show. So I've
Mhm.
sent 318 letters. I've gotten 7 responses, which is a 2.2 response rate.
That's a really good mail campaign then.
Because you know, I'm doing like probably like 20, 25 a week. You know,
Mhm.
I'm
Mhm.
not just doing one at a time. And then for everybody I don't get a hold of, they'll get that like a rehash. So the first one
Yeah.
I'm sending like a letter,
How
and
many
then the
touches?
second one I'm gonna do 12 months.
12 months. And so they're going to get 12 in 12 months. They're going to get 12 letters from you or
Well,
postcards.
yeah, the first one's gonna be like a mailer, and I'm
Mhm.
getting a good response rate on that. And then I'm sorry, a letter, and
Yeah.
then 2 through 12 is postcards, which I get them at 55 cents, and my letter's $1. So
It's not bad.
no.
Is it and is the service that you're using, is it Renata Southwest or who
No,
you
I do everything right now through REI Sift. So they're my data management, CRM, Mailhouse. There is like a Renatus iOS like system within the Sift map.
Oh, really?
Right now I'm starting in puddles, ponds, ocean, I'll
Mhm.
add more vexations, but
Yeah.
I probate obviously is a little bit time consuming, which with my
Mhm.
cadence of following up is good, but it's still so fresh. I'm only 2.5, 3 months in.
Mhm.
I have a tax delinquency list that I've pulled and skipped trace, but I just haven't had time to call.
Right.
So I don't know. Thinking about getting some help for the calling, but I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah. I like that. I like that you're gonna at least get, have 12 touches per lead and
Well,
getting
and
3%.
that's just
That's
mail, right? Like
crazy.
I'll call them monthly too, but just depending. It's a good system, but
If I get a return rate of like 1%, I feel good about my mailing campaign. So if you're getting 2 or 3, that's really good. That's
Mhm.
phenomenal. So kudos. It's good. Yeah, and I think when you send a mailer and to call them like a good icebreaker or pattern rap is like, yeah, I sent you something in the mail. I mean, um you didn't get that, did you?
Okay.
I think
Yeah,
Gavin foreclosure class, he talks about that too, like using that as an icebreaker, even knocking on the door, like, yeah, I gave you a call and I even sent this letter. You didn't see my letter, did you? And then another thing you can do, if you can find out when those mailers are going to be sent out, and then call those people like that same day or the next day after they get your letter, then it's like fresh in mind. Or like maybe it's like you can find out on the zip codes and when the mail person's going to show up to that particular area. You just call the post
well,
office and figure it
my
out
REI SIF does say when it's
when
like
it's
the
delivered.
campaign's in progress, sent and delivered. I get
Okay,
each
perfect.
record. I don't get a notification, but I can
You
see
can look it up and see.
on per record when the letter was delivered. So I'm not
Okay.
using that, but I should because sometimes on my follow-up is or like rehash, I'm like, hey, I've sent you a letter a couple of times. I don't know if you got anything. A couple of people are like, yeah, I've seen it. And from when I followed up on a phone call, they call me back from my mailing number saying, hey, you just called me today, but I've gotten your letter too, type
Mm-hmm.
thing. But I need to be a little bit more direct, I think, with that pattern interrupt on everybody else who I'm calling and
Yeah.
just use that like, hey, I've sent you a letter. Just following up to see if you got it.
Yeah.
So you think
And
that should I should wait to call them until that letter's delivered,
Well,
or just give them a call?
I'm not a fan of waiting, but
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think you can schedule a calling session when they show up, right? So if you want to call them beforehand, like do it. Like when is now a good time to call? Now.
yeah.
But you're not going to get a hold of all these guys or these guys and gals that first call session, right? So you're going to be just make sure to have at least your call session with that list that day or the day after. And if they haven't got the email or the email, but the letter or whatnot, I I, I would almost suggest like sound almost kind of disappointed, like, oh, you didn't get my letter?
Yeah.
Yeah, and try to be like genuine, like they can hear it over the phone, right? But it's just you just want to sound different than a regular salesperson, not smooth. You're just going to be, and as time as the conversation progresses, you can taper that off.
Mhm.
You can sound more, more articulate and all that, from the very get go. And then it like, okay, yeah, you do know what you're talking about. This is a good thing. And lot
What's your favorite like fixation or problem?
my favorite. Oh, like for leads or
Like, do you like pre-foreclosures the best?
I
Texting?
don't do a ton of stuff with pre foreclosures personally. I mean, I close a bunch of those on, but I don't like actively necessarily look out for pre foreclosures because it's a very commonly hit lead list.
Hmm.
So not saying you can't find, I mean, you guys still can find deals. Like again, Saud, the deal that we made $97,000 on, that was on a foreclosure property, right? So yeah, there's definitely deals there. I made a ton of money off of on foreclosures, but it is a very active list that people hit. But that's okay if you're selling like no one else and you're doing the stammering old man. You're going to get through a lot more walls than the average Joe would. That's just calling to watch 3 YouTube videos or even a professional caller. Like you're going to be get through more doors than the professional will, just because you don't sound like them.
What is your
My favorite. So to answer the question, sorry.
favorite?
For cold calling, I really like there's absentee owners, out of state, in the state. I like absentee owners. One, a lot of times they're like investors, and so like they'll have more than one property. Not every time, but a lot of times it could be probates. It could be, but house they moved out of, maybe they inherited it. A number of reasons why they have an absentee owner, absentee, where their mailing address is different than the actual physical address. Okay, so that's what absentee owner means. Um, and then you can buy more than one. In addition to that is like the evictions. Evictions, no one's hitting. No one's going to eviction court and checking it out, pulling the information out. That's when you talk to tired landlords that are in the name of the person. So if, I don't want to call Boston LLC. I want to call John Smith that's evicting Billy Bob Thornton or what that's evicting Billy Bob over here. I want to call John Smith because they're they probably read half of Robert Kiyosaki book, and then like I want to invest in real estate, and that's they don't have an LLC set up. They bought this house in their own name. Those are the ones that are probably more likely to be a tired landlord than like an actual business or property management company and whatnot. So evictions, absentee owners, those are my favorite call list.
Okay, cool.
But yeah, yeah,
Yeah, my mail niche is that probate absentee owner because I'm making sure that the because right in the
probates are
counter
great.
the petitioner leaves
Mhm.
they have to put their address, sometimes their phone number, but I'm like, what a great my return
Yeah,
mail ratio is 0.000. I think I've gotten like 2 return mails out of those 318 letters, so might as
that's
well hit
really
up.
good. Mm,
Yeah.
yeah, that's good percentage. But and here's the thing, guys. Like my take is on everything works, nothing does. So whatever system or method that you're depending on the time and money scale, if you're consistent and you're doing sacred time and you're hitting it every single or whatever the days that you have it set up for the sacred time, like it doesn't matter if you're calling notice default foreclosure. Everyone's gonna have a little bit different success rate depending on what kind of makes sense for you. It's just what kind of problem you want to solve. Because probates, that there's a whole slew of headaches that are involved with probates because there's always gonna be that one stupid uncle that or aunt that thinks they deserve more than everyone else, like every single time. I swear, there's always one in there where they want and or divorces like I've had deals where it fell apart because like the husband just didn't want to sign or didn't show up closing because he just wanted to be a dick. I mean, that's just the reality. So there's always challenges no matter what kind of lead source you're choosing, but just hit it. Like as long as you're doing like what you're doing is perfect, right? So that's.
Mhm.
But yeah, we're 15 minutes over, so I gotta run my next appointment here. But yeah, good call, guys. Cool. Any last second thoughts, questions? Shout out to everyone that came to the Door Knocker Bonanza. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I
It
heard that was awesome. They love the gift cards.
was good. Despite when I was knocking with Nate, like every door was like Spanish speaking. So and he did a few words, but yeah, he was like, I don't know what you said, Jared. Like, oh yeah, that's fair. Not that.
It was good you were there.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
Could have been sunk.
yeah. It's
And
fun.
then they got 4 leads out of it, so
They
that was
did.
awesome.
Yeah. I actually have a lead. I got to send to Nate. I'm not even. Oh, shoot. I'm gonna text Nate. Okay. Hey, all right, guys. I appreciate y'all. Love you all. And
Thank you.
Have a good
let's
one.
practice mirroring, guys. Repeating the last 3 words someone says. Your spouses, your friends, whatever, stranger on the street. Practice. Aubrey, I'm gonna ask Nate tomorrow if you've done the active listening or not. Excuse me, the mirroring. So
Deal.
yeah,
Challenge
that's what
is
you get for
accepted.
yeah. So okay, all right, guys. See y'all. Love y'all.